This Val-Con video is powered by GTX Server Hosting, the best way to run your Valheim server.
You can re-experience the event by re-watching certain parts in-game in Valheim with your friends. To get started, you can search for Val-Con Official in R2 Modman and install the Val-Con Official Modded Server 2026 pack.
The wonderful Lee Williams, who is a writer and I can say narrative. I can pronounce that word. Narrative designer who worked on Valheim. He's the one behind every bit of lore, every runestone and dream. Lee, we are so delighted to have you on here with us.
Welcome back, Lee.
Hello.
Hi, Lee.
Hello. Thank you very much for having me back. It's an honor.
How are you doing?
There you are.
I'm very well, thank you. I'm better for seeing that video as well. That was amazing.
Right?
Nice.
Yeah, I thought you would enjoy it. So,
I loved it. Yeah.
And if you hang around after we have our chat with you, there's another video that is kind of an interesting one that's speculating a little bit based on some of the lore. So like people really love your lore and really kind of like dive deep into the meaning of everything that's written and everything. So
yes, please. Yes, that's brilliant. I mean, it's always amazing for me. It's a real thrill to see people engaging with it, in that way. It really is.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm just going to switch screens so we can spotlight you. Ooh, did that work?
Yeah.
No, wait. We need to bring people back on stage. There you go.
Hi.
There we go.
Spotlight now.
Let's do it the other way around. Like this.
I think we keep doing it at the same time.
This is not me.
I'll do it.
No, it's the Klaus. It's the Klaus
I
show.
don't mind where
Too
I
many
go.
cooks.
You can cut me anywhere. It's fine.
Sorry.
Three words.
Fun. Okay, so to kick things off, for those who have missed you last year and who might not know, who might not be as familiar with your involvement with Valheim, could you introduce yourself and what specifically you do for Valheim?
So I'm a writer and designer, and for Valheim, I kind of created all the world lore, so the premise of the 10th world and the sort of setup, and then all the rune stones and the dreams, most of the I think almost all of the item descriptions, that kind of thing. So pretty much all the incidental text. There are a few things I didn't do, like the merchants bits and pieces that had to be done, along with the sort of mechanics. But pretty much all the rune stones and all the sort of background lore for the game I wrote, and it was a lot of fun.
Fantastic.
I can imagine.
Lee Williams, Dream Master.
Dream Master.
That's a good title.
I like that. I want that on my passport.
On the passport, yeah. Of course.
Okay, so since we already had an interview with you last year, we thought this year we'd do, rather than asking more questions, although we would love to hear more about your work and hear more about you, we thought we would switch things up, and to give us a better insight on how you go through your own creative process when it comes to writing, we are going to design a biome together. So for those who were here earlier, we did this also with Philip from Brick Animation, where he took us through his kind of thought process on how he would design a trailer for that new biome. So now we're going to ask you how you would write, or like what kind of either runestones or kind of just a narrative arc that you would build. So to give some context for those who are just tuning in and who missed this section before, the premise that we've given, and we have given Lee some information ahead of time, we are inventing a new biome that is based on Yggdrasil. So the idea is, what if after defeating the Forsaken, the players could finally reach Yggdrasil itself? Because if you paid attention when you're first logging onto the world and you get all the scrolling information, it does say in there in the Valheim lore that Odin severed the branches connecting the 10th realm to the world tree, turning it into a place of exile. But and there's the whole thing of like, we need to prove our worth to Odin, right? Throughout our trials in the 10th world. So what if Yggdrasil, once we finish the course of the game, Yggdrasil, the tree was reconnected to the 10th world and we could access it. So that's kind of the main premise.
Yeah. So I'll
It's
just give a little like premise of the like framework. High altitude biome sat across Yggdrasil's roots, branches, and canopy with an organic environment, root sheets, thanks, brain, shoots, leaves, vines, mushrooms, drawing from Norse myth and tree ecosystems, perhaps mixing things like giant insects, reptiles, birds, and mammals. It feels sort of sacred, but immense, familiar, yet otherworldly, with that constant sense of danger. We kind of imagine that the boss for this biome would be Needhogger, the serpent gnawing at the roots of the tree. So that's little encapsulation of what we've given Lee to work with.
Yes. And
Based
before
on
we
this information, I think Gwen has a poll.
have a poll, because we did that. We want the audience to participate. We did that earlier. So we let people decide and vote on which creature would be the hostile creature they would want to see. Now we're going to talk about some of the passive creatures. And if someone can queue up the poll while I read through. So the passive creatures I think that we have are the Dunderwings, which would be electric butterflies that shock you when you touch them. The Yggdrasil stags that are inspired by the 4 stags of Norse mythology that actually leap on the Yggdrasil tree. So it would be stags leaping from branch to branch and grazing on the leaves. We could have the glowcap slugs, which would be slow-moving slugs feeding on the mushrooms that might be growing on the tree, leaving faint glowing trails behind. Or the ask lizards, lizard-like creatures clinging onto the bark and vines. So these are the 4, and I think you should be able to type in chat 1, 2, 3, or 4 for your favorite passive creature that you would love to see in this.
There they go. They
Okay,
started.
let's go.
Yes. Already started. Yep.
early lead for the stags.
Oh yeah.
I think
I
everyone loves the
mean-
deer and the honking in the deer in the game.
Exactly.
Maybe that's what
Like
it
they're
is.
smaller Yggdrasil. How do I? What is that? Is that like the antlers would be like roots or something?
Oh, not sure.
Well,
I'm wondering about
maybe
this. This is
Lee can
fictional, of course.
expand upon this while everyone chats and votes in chat.
Yeah.
Yes.
So, kind of based on this info, could you talk us through like the process of writing a short myth or legend, a key narrative hook, maybe the boss that's tied to the story? We gave you a little idea of that, but maybe you came up with something else. And maybe a runestone line hinting at the lore.
Right. Yes. Well, it's. I think it would be a really exciting biome. I have a feeling. I have a vague memory that years ago, when I was first working on the game, I did ask, "Oh, is there a possibility you could go up onto the branches?" And I was told, "No. They're just in the skybox. No, we won't be doing that." But yeah, so I would be excited to write for a biome like that. So I mean, would you like me to start by saying like what my process would be as a writer?
Sure.
I guess.
Yeah.
I could say a lot of kind of technical things about what my process is, but really I would be sort of bluffing. I think I would be masking the fact that my process is. I don't think my process has changed since I was about 5 years old. My process when I write is I walk up and down the house, sort of gesturing and imagining in my head. If it's an exciting scene, I might even be swinging an imaginary sword. I genuinely do. I'm just like I did when I was a kid. I'm very lucky to have this job, and I just do that. I always walk when I think up ideas. If it's not in the house, I go for a walk around the block or in the countryside, and then I come back with my head full and just write it all down.
There you go.
It's awful. It's awful the first time I write anything. It's terrible, and then I just edit and trim. I really like concise writing personally. That's one of the reasons I like writing for Valheim. I like the challenge of getting as much flavor as you can into like a very short bit of text, for a dream or runestone. But they usually when I first write them, they're maybe 4 times that length, and then I'm just quite brutal. I just edit it down. One of the things one little trick I do you might be interested in is I try to. One of the things I always do when I edit for Valheim, I always try and use the flavor of the text in Valheim. To me, it's got a very specific sort of mood to it. And what I tend to do is this is not an absolute rule, but just as a general rule of thumb, I often remove words that have Latin roots. So like longer words, generally there'll be the longer words in English tend to have sort of Latin roots, and replace them with simpler words which tend to have kind of Germanic or Anglo-Saxon or Norse roots. So if I talk, I might have mentioned something about the extraction of an ore, and I'll take the word extraction out and I'll substitute it with something else. Draw the ore from the ground or so. I don't know, but that's a lot of edits that I do. You might notice when that in the runestones, I tend to not just shorten things, but try and make the words simpler. For the mood of the game, it feels it needs to be quite simple language, generally speaking, to capture the right feel. Anyway, I'm waffling now. To delay having to come up with some thoughts on the biome. I have been thinking about it though today. I mean, what I was thinking is it would be a really exciting area to write some lore for, because you would have. I like the premise. I think you mentioned that you might the bows might then reach out and reconnect with Valheim, and so you might have a role. I quite like the idea that you might have a role as a kind of warden, as a sort of keeper of the tree or of the boughs where they touch Valheim. So I can see it being a nice late game or even kind of post finale biome like that, where you would be tasked with sort of managing the boughs of the tree.
Yes, amazing.
And I thought I like the idea of Nidhogger as the boss for the game. And I mean, one thing I tended to do with the bosses, I didn't like to make any of the bosses be just kind of explicitly or exclusively evil. I wanted them all. I wanted there to be a sympathetic quality to some of this. A little bit of that possibly comes from Shadow of the Colossus. I always liked that you felt that there was an ambiguity towards them, and you almost felt a little bit of guilt for killing the colossi in that game. And I tried to do something similar with Valheim. So I think if you had a villain like I'm just calling him a villain, a boss like Nidhogger, you would want something. I can imagine it being, that he would, in mythology, he gnawed at the roots of Yggdrasil, so he would be maybe feeding on the boughs. So it wouldn't necessarily. He would be a threat and something you would have to stop, but there would be a reason to why he's doing that, which would give a sympathetic edge to him. But I can see it being quite an epic sort of opponent. I especially like the idea that he might go round the boughs. So if you had like a section of bough, he would go off one side and then he might roll back up round the other side. I think that could make for a fun battle.
Yeah.
I love also that you mentioned that idea that like it's kind of a passive creature too, because that's something that a lot of people have with Moder. A lot of people, when you actually read the texts around Moder and you actually think about what you're doing, you feel bad. You feel bad for what you're doing, because you're breaking her eggs, making her come to you, and then you like destroy her, and then you're like, she keeps on crying. Okay, nice, thank you. Now I'll cry in my bed and move on to the next biome.
Exactly.
It's pretty horrible. I think Moder is probably the worst one, because there's no implication even that Moder is. She must have been exiled there for some reason, but I wanted there always also to be the sort of the notion that Odin is kind of cruel as well in his way, or if he's not cruel, then he's seeing a bigger picture which involves acts of cruelty essentially, because it's not necessarily that the Forsaken who were exiled to Valheim, it wasn't necessarily the case that it was because they were all evil, but because they just didn't fit in with his order, so to speak.
Yeah.
So for some of them, like Moder, I think there is definitely a, they're very sympathetic characters.
I think there's a lot of
Interesting.
fan theories about, are we the bad guys? Like, we're doing Odin's visit, like, are we
Yes.
the bad guys? And that's always been fascinating for me, these like complex gray areas. I think it was Izora in chat who just said complex gray characters, and yeah, they're very relatable because they're human, in that way, I guess. None of us are entirely good or evil, and I think that
Yeah,
brings
that's
a
it.
lot.
I agree, and I think they make for much more interesting characters in any sort of fiction.
Absolutely.
If there are some grey areas. One of the rune stones that I wrote that I was sort of proudest of, I guess, that I like the most. There's one I think that says that's addressing anybody who reads it. So any warrior who's found themselves in Valheim, and it says something like, "Who among you is not a kinslayer, or who hasn't done well?" Basically, essentially saying you've come to Valheim because you're the greatest warriors. Well, you don't really get to be the greatest warriors unless there's an edge of sort of brutality to you somewhere. So I quite like that sort of reflection.
I've always
Very
liked the fact
cool.
that Bone Mass thanks you for killing him.
Yes, that's what it
That's
is.
trophy.
Also very haunting.
You're right. Like, I'm sure there's a story there, but I've always loved that twist. It was something I didn't notice for the longest time, and it really caught me by surprise.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, you put, and I think there's a lot of I think the sort of Draugr and some of the other enemies in the game. The idea is that you're kind of putting them out of their misery, a bit like Bone Mass.
Yeah.
Do you have backstories for some of these characters that, like, in your head or in side notes that obviously doesn't make it to the direct lore?
Lots, yeah. I do. Yeah, lots of things. As I say, I tend to kind of edit down, condense it a lot when I write. So there's lots of things. One of the ones I think that has the most kind of coherent narrative is the dragon in the Ashlands, who
Yes.
that's I had quite a long story for that, but then I purposely, I think, broke the story up and put just little fragments of it on the runestone so you wouldn't get the whole story, because I felt that made it seem a little more real, that you're not, that it doesn't just explain to you exactly what happened chronologically. You just have to piece it together from bits and pieces, and you won't ever get the whole story. But there's something I like about that. I like leaving those areas for people to kind of, imagine for themselves.
Yeah, you really get like the space to figure some things out. Definitely in the Echelons, as you say, with Father and like the Winter Child and like, what is the story? What happened to the Echelons? It is so cool to see people kind of unravel all of those lore stones and see what kind of story they make up of it. And I was hearing you talk about this, and like yesterday when we also had an interview, like people were already talking about CDs and more like behind the scene music that we never saw with Patrick. And like from the sound of it, you could actually basically make a book out of a whole bunch of lore about Valheim that we never knew about. Like that's so cool to me. And I kind of wish I could have an insight into your head, or like the documents that you don't get to share with us, about more of that information. And I'm sure in the Echelons, in the Deep North, we'll get some more information about the Winter Child and maybe some answers and all that stuff. But I'm so excited about all of that.
Thank you. Yeah, there will be more to come. I'm having to, if you can see sometimes me pausing, you might be able to hear my brain go, I'm trying to stop myself from saying something.
Yeah, you don't want to get in trouble. To say
about what might happen later. But there is certainly more to come, and some answers to those questions. Like I say, I like to leave a little bit of kind of mystery, but equally the end of the game I don't think would be very satisfying unless it wrapped most things up.
Yeah.
That's true. That is true.
Yeah, it's so exciting to know that you're involved in the whole arc of the whole game, like from start to finish, and that you'll be tying all those arcs and those narrative bits together. It's It's really satisfying.
I
But
got full faith that
Yes.
it's gonna be a-okay. I'm
Oh,
enjoying
yeah.
it so
well,
much so far.
Absolutely.
I hope so. I really
You got
hope.
this.
I hope I don't drop the ball at the last minute. Do a sort of Game of Thrones
Couldn't have
or
done.
It's
No,
very
we don't
easy
want
to
that.
not do a Game of Thrones. It's very easy
Yes,
to not do that.
that is true.
Yeah.
That is true. Koo, did you? Not Koo. Sorry, Klaus. Did you have a question? Sorry, I cut you off.
Well, it was more of a comment. I really, one of the things I really like about this game is it encourages a lot of player creativity, and I think that even happens through the runestones, right? Where you don't give us the full story, so you're encouraging us to really, write our own story on top of what's given to us, and to interpret, even play on those ideas. So I just, that's connected with everything from how we play the game to how you build in the game, or how you interact with the game on every level. And I love that kind of connective, creative tissue that we've got here.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
Yeah, and I think it was kind of important for me to because of the nature of the game. I never felt it would benefit from a very prescriptive story. That told you, who you were, what your purpose was, what you were thinking, what you were meant to do. Because it's such a wonderful playground, the game, for people to enter into and put their own stories into, as you say. So it felt important to kind of to do that, to have story threads that were going through it, but that wouldn't kind of wouldn't direct players too much, or wouldn't interfere with their own stories that they're telling for themselves in the world.
Oh, I like that.
Well, Valheim does a great job at that, at not being too prescriptive, but leaving the right amount of hints. So to bring it back, yeah, absolutely. To bring it back to that Yggdrasil biome that we're designing together, let's see what the result of that poll is. Okay, so the stags are definitely winning. So with that in mind, how would you bring something like those creatures, either the stags or any of the others that inspire you most? How would you bring that into I don't know, maybe some rune stones or the general lore?
Which of the characters would die to it or something?
Who get a tree on the head?
Yeah, somebody would have to. I'll go with the stags because that's the popular vote. But I really liked. I'm sorry, I've forgotten already who mentioned it a minute ago. I really like the idea of the stags having shoots, having antlers that would maybe. That's really nice. And I think something like that would be good to kind of tie them to the tree in some way. I can imagine antlers that would bud and flower even. That would be really nice. And the stags, would these be passive creatures, did you say? Or
yes, passive. They're the stags that are leaping all over. In the Norse literature, there's only 3 of them, and they actually have names and everything. But I thought maybe for this biome, we encountered them a bit more often.
You might have them. And I did that with lots of sort of creatures in the game that it would do play a bit fast and loose with the literature, intentionally. But it would be nice to have. I think you could give them a nice mossy, a nice tree themed look.
A tree,
a little moss coat.
The rooted horn creatures.
Yeah, it's kind of mossy coat, branching antlers.
Pithy Peaches over in chat is asking, will Richard voice the stag? Because we found out that some of the original deer noises we made him yesterday.
He must.
So, no. I think that might have to happen. Like
he would have to. Yes.
Yeah. I mean, it's gonna, it's gonna
have to be cohesive, right? You just need to shout into a tin can or something. I don't know if that's what he did. That's what I imagine.
It was sound really echoey.
Yeah. Sounds good.
Okay. Well, before we end off with our separate biome and everything, we do have a couple more rapid fire questions for you. Now, the purpose of these is to be just really quickly to give the first answer you can think of, just really rapid, and just the first thing you can think of. Try to answer that. There's hard questions in there, with notice. But we're just gonna give it a go.
Yeah, and I'm prepared.
Okay, well, here we go. What is your favorite game?
Told you they were hard.
Maybe Thief, the first Thief.
Okay.
Oh, Thief.
That's on the spot.
Favorite classic.
What is your favorite book?
Tristram Shandy by Lawrence Stern. That's my favourite.
Oh, okay.
It's a 18th century kind of comic novel.
Oh, fun. What's your favorite Norse mythology character?
Ooh.
Yeah.
That exists, not the stag.
Loki.
Well, maybe it does exist. Actually.
Loki. I see. Okay, pen and
Yes.
paper or keyboard and Word document?
Pen and paper. But I use keyboard more nowadays through necessity. But I still like to keep notes. I always have pens and paper around. If I'm jotting things down, I always want pen and paper. And as I say, I often walk while I'm thinking things, so I always have a notebook and I write things down first.
Yeah.
Cool.
Favorite Valheim biome?
The first one.
Meadows.
Meadows.
Meadows. Yeah, just because I just like it. It was my first impressions of the game, and I remember playing it, in the very early days when there was only that biome, I think, and I just love the mood of it. They're all great. I like all the biomes for different reasons, but that's still when I play. That's where I want my main base to be.
It's pretty chill. Favorite Forsaken?
Oh. I'm stuck.
Oh, we got him.
No.
That's it.
Got me.
You can pass. Maybe you pass on that one.
Yeah.
I'll pass on that one. I love them all. I can't. They feel like my babies, so I can't choose one. It's like asking me to choose between my kids.
Yeah. Speaking of which, favorite character from a runestone?
Probably Ulf, because that's my character in the game.
Yeah.
Perfect. Yeah.
I remember that.
Yeah. His
He is
runestones
Ulf.
are just me.
Yeah. Just your experience, which is all of our experiences as well, to be fair.
Yes.
Runestone character you would take in a duel?
that I could beat in a duel.
Yeah.
That you want to.
That you want
That
to
you
try
would
and
be-
take on
yeah.
in a duel, yeah.
That I could.
That you want to try and take on in a duel. So
I
probably
want to try and
someone you
take on
think
in a
you could
duel.
beat.
Which is the one who lost their arm? One of them lost their arm, didn't they? Which is the one who lost their arm?
Strategic.
I'm being strategic. I think I don't honestly think that there are. I don't imagine there is a Viking warrior in history that I could take in a duel.
Yeah.
We know this.
But if they only had one arm, then I
Astrid.
and I had to
Maybe.
pick. It was Astrid, wasn't it?
I think so. I think so.
Yeah.
Alright.
I'd still think she'd take me, to be honest. But yeah, if she's only
Too
got
bad,
the one
huh?
arm, I'd feel like I might have at least have a fighting chance.
Let's step away from violence. Favorite creature then?
Favorite creature, the Grey Dwarves.
Ah.
All right, cool.
I
Favorite weapon?
really love. There's something I really like about them. I love them, and
They're flimsy.
yeah, I had a lot of fun writing the lore for them.
Yeah.
I agree.
I love
the
it.
lore.
I mean, yeah.
From that, when they get annoying, favorite weapon?
I'm an archer in the game. I like the bows. I tend to, again, I'm coming across very cowardly in this interview, aren't I? I don't want to fight any Vikings unless they've only got one arm, and I do tend to. I like to stay back in the fights.
Yeah. That is fair. Well, thank you so much for these quick fire questions, for the answers.
No, you're very welcome. You're very welcome.
All right.
Just gonna
I believe
a
Ku has
moment.
something from chat, right?
Yes, I'm going to take a moment just to have a comment from chat. Complete collection of short stories behind the Lore Stones when has been a question. People want more
lovely.
from you.
That would be lovely, wouldn't it? I'd love to do that.
A book.
I'd love to. Yeah, I'd love to do something like that. I think it is. It's a great world. It turned out, surprised me that the lore turned out. I think, I'm very pleased with it, and it's a world that still has a lot of stories, I think, that you could tell in it. So yeah, I'd love something like that.
Oh.
I think a lot of people would.
I did write.
Yeah.
Did you want to hear? I did write a little runestone for the biome that you suggested earlier.
Oh yes,
Oh,
sorry.
yes, we'd
yeah.
love to
Yeah.
So I read,
we would
so I read
love
it out
that.
quickly. It's only a quick one, and it hasn't had a proper edit. But I wrote a couple actually. I had an idea. These didn't come up, but the squirrel in the tree, Ratatoska, there might be like little squirrels that were related to them. I called them the Toskin, so there might be little passive squirrels going around. So I wrote a runestone that would say, treat well the Toskin, little gossips who carry the words of men and more beneath their tongues. They are descended from Ratatoska, who was once the helpmeet of the gods and friend to the great drakes.
Oh, yes.
It's only a little one.
Lore.
And I wrote another one that said, with the world tree restored, the All-Father honours your deeds by naming you as its champion where it touches the land of Valheim. Your sworn duty is to protect the boughs and to ensure they flourish through every season. But this is not the work of a mere woodsman. The tree is home to all manner of creatures, some of which have learned to scorn the axe.
Oh, I love that.
Ooh,
So,
yeah.
example, I felt inspired. I did think it was a really good idea for a biome. So
That makes you
Nice.
just think, and this is exactly what we want from a runestone. Open-ended, make your own story.
Yeah.
Just that
Must
glimpse
enough.
of a story.
Yeah.
Did you
Yeah.
have any more written down before we?
I didn't know those were the
That's-
two that I wrote for that. Yeah.
Perfect. That's just off.
Thank you.
Thank
Yeah,
you so
no,
much.
that's
Well-
really made me smile.
Yeah.
If you haven't caught on yet, because we've been doing this with Patrick, with Philip, and with you, and then later with Mats, the illustrator, we're totally kind of stealing your ideas so we can put together the biome and then be like, hey, I engage. If you wanted the DLC,
One
Go
master
for it. Go
document.
for it. I'll send you the text for those runestones if you want to use them. You're very welcome to.
Oh,
Yes.
amazing! But it's so fun to go through that exercise and to get to get an insight into how your brain works when it comes to writing the lore and
Yes.
kind of thinking up the characters. Thank you so much, Lee.
No, you're very welcome. It's a pleasure.
Yeah, it was a real pleasure, especially to have you back since last year. For those who remember that, because one thing from that stuck with me, it was the Ulf thing,
Yeah.
because it was your experiences.
Yes.
Before we round off, because we do got to do that. Sadly, we
We
could chat
do.
on for forever. I feel like.
We
I
did.
do want to invite you, if you have the time, completely not mandatory, but we do after at the end of every stream, we have a little story time, bedtime stories written by our own Amanda Starks in chat. Is Zora in chat? We read those out. She makes a lot of lore for my personal server, and she writes very, very well in my opinion. So, open invitation. If you want to stick around for that, it would be around 1:45 for you.
Around 1:45.
Yeah.
If you're still awake and you want to tune into either on YouTube or on Twitch, you'll hear. I think it will be Easy Border and Koo who will be reading out
Yes.
those stories. So,
We'll be reading them out. You can watch them back as well.
yeah, yeah.
I would love to. Yeah, I will do definitely. So
That's
quarter to
amazing.
midnight tonight. Yeah,
Yes.
Good. All right.
I will be
Well,
watching certainly.
I think you made someone's day.
You made
Really
someone
nice.
day, and
Or
definitely
the
also mine, because it
freeing in
means a
chat.
lot.
No, I certainly
Absolutely.
will. No, thank you. Well, you've made my day. Like I say, it's just a thrill to have been involved in something which is obviously kind of connected with so many people and inspired so many people. So it's a real thrill to see it.
That's
Awesome.
amazing.
Well,
That's
thank
great.
you so
That's-
much,
So-
Lee. I guess see you next year, hopefully.
Yes,
Yeah. Until next
Definitely.
time, Lee. Take care.
definitely. Until then, no, thank you
Great
very
one.
much.
Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye
Thanks
bye.
for joining.
Thanks for watching this part of Val-Con 2026. The Val-Con livestream may be over, but most of the worlds are still available to play on. All you have to do is join the Val-Con Discord and then access this server info page here. This will give you access to all of these different Valheim communities, ranging from Helldivers 2 in Valheim, PvP Valheim experiences, modded worlds, and even vanilla Valheim recreations of things like Lord of the Rings and Star Wars. You gain access to all of these communities and more simply by being in the Val-Con Discord. Make sure to subscribe to the channel if you want to stay in touch, especially if you want to be involved in Val-Con 2027. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.
This Val-Con video is powered by GTX Server Hosting, the best way to run your Valheim server.